Before we dive into today's topic, I want to tell you about something that's changed how I approach pigeon health and performance. I run another channel called Pigeon Healthy where I share natural herbal treatment methods that most fanciers have never heard of. We're talking about plants and natural remedies that have powerful healing and performance-enhancing effects on pigeons. Things like specific herb combinations that boost immunity, natural treatments for respiratory diseases, plants that improve digestion and recovery after races, and natural alternatives to chemical medications. We cover pigeon diseases you might be struggling with right now: canker, respiratory infections, coccidiosis, worms, and show you exactly how to treat them using natural methods that actually work. No guessing. No expensive medications with side effects. Just proven herbal protocols used by top European lofts. If you're serious about keeping your birds healthy naturally and improving their performance without chemicals, go subscribe to Pigeon Healthy right now. The knowledge there could save you birds, save you money, and give you an edge your competition doesn't have. Now let's get into today's topic. Tuesday morning, you walk into the loft for routine feeding. Everything appears normal. Birds are on perches, some flying around, others eating from yesterday's feed. You count heads. Everyone's present. You observe casually while preparing fresh feed and water. Nothing seems wrong. The loft looks and sounds like it always does. You complete your work and leave satisfied that all is well. Thursday morning, same routine. You walk in, observe briefly, provide feed and water. Again, everything seems fine. Maybe one bird is sitting slightly fluffed on a perch, but when you approach, it tightens its feathers and looks normal, probably just resting. You don't think much of it. You certainly don't catch the bird for closer examination. Why would you? It looks fine. Saturday morning, you walk into the loft and immediately something is wrong. The bird that was sitting slightly fluffed Thursday is now obviously sick, feathers heavily fluffed, eyes partially closed, head tucked, not moving when you approach, not eating, breathing seems labored. This bird is seriously ill. You catch it at examination. The bird feels light, keel is prominent, muscle has wasted. This didn't happen overnight. The bird has been sick for days, not eating properly, losing condition progressively. You just didn't notice until the illness became severe enough that the bird couldn't hide it anymore. You rush to treat the bird. Antibiotics, vitamins, supportive care. Maybe the bird recovered. More likely, it dies within a day or two, because by the time illness is obvious enough for casual observation to detect, the bird is often too far gone for treatment to save it. This scenario is tragically common. It happens in lofts at every level from beginners to experienced fanciers. Birds become sick, but they hide the illness through instinctive behavior that evolved to prevent predators from targeting weak individuals. By the time the illness is severe enough that the bird can't hide it, treatment often comes too late. The bird dies. The fancier is shocked and confused. The bird seemed fine 2 days ago. How did it get so sick so fast? The answer is it didn't get sick fast. It got sick gradually over 5 to 7 days, or longer, but the fancier only noticed when symptoms became impossible to hide. The early warning signs were there: subtle changes in eyes, feathers, behavior. But the fancier didn't know what to look for or didn't look carefully enough to see them. This is the silent killer, not the specific disease, though diseases vary. The silent killer is the combination of birds' instinct to hide illness and fanciers' failure to detect subtle early warning signs. This combination means birds die from treatable diseases because treatment starts too late after irreversible damage has occurred. Top fanciers like Jos Thone understand this completely. His quote, "I don't wait for sickness, I prevent it in the silence," reflects a philosophy of constant, careful observation for the earliest possible signs that something is wrong. These fanciers don't wait for obvious symptoms. They watch for the subtle signals that illness is beginning, and they intervene immediately with supportive care that prevents mild problems from becoming fatal diseases. Today we're covering the 3 most important early warning signs that indicate a pigeon is becoming sick before obvious symptoms develop. These are subtle changes that appear 3 to 7 days before the bird shows obvious illness. Catching problems at this early stage allows intervention that prevents progression to serious disease. We'll also cover the immediate response protocol that supports birds showing early warning signs, giving their immune systems the best chance to fight off infection before it becomes established. Let's start with understanding why early detection matters so much. and why waiting for obvious symptoms is often too late. The progression of most common pigeon diseases follows a pattern. Day 0, exposure to pathogen through contact with infected birds, contaminated food or water, or environmental sources. The pathogen enters the bird's system. Days 1 to 3, incubation period. The pathogen begins multiplying in the bird's body. The immune system detects the pathogen and begins responding. During this phase, the bird usually appears completely normal. The battle between pathogen and immune system is happening at cellular level, invisible to external observation. Days 3 to 5, early infection phase. Pathogen numbers are increasing. Immune response is intensifying. The bird begins experiencing subtle physiological stress from the infection and immune response. This stress creates the first detectable signs. Very subtle changes in eyes, feathers, behavior, energy. The bird still appears mostly normal to casual observation, but careful observer can detect these early signals. Days 5 to 7, established infection phase. Pathogen has multiplied extensively. Immune system is under significant stress. The bird's body is diverting substantial energy and resources to fighting infection. Observable symptoms begin appearing: slightly reduced appetite, increased time resting, minor feather fluffing, slight changes in dropping. The bird is obviously starting to show problems to anyone paying attention. Days 7 plus, severe infection phase. Without effective immune response or treatment, infection becomes severe. Obvious symptoms appear that no one can miss: heavy feather fluffing, closed eyes, refusal to eat, inability to perch, labored breathing, severe lethargy. The bird is critically ill. The key is that the window for most effective intervention is days 3 to 5, the early infection phase. At this point, pathogen numbers are still relatively low. Immune system hasn't been overwhelmed. Supportive intervention, rest, hydration, nutrition, reduced stress can tip the balance in favor of the immune system, allowing it to defeat the infection before it becomes severe. By days 7 plus, when symptoms are obvious, pathogen numbers are very high, immune system is exhausted, and the bird has often suffered organ damage, liver, kidneys, air sacs. That makes full recovery unlikely, even with aggressive treatment. Antibiotics might kill remaining pathogens, but the damage is done. The bird dies from organ failure or complications, even after the infection is technically controlled. This is why early detection matters. Catching illness in days 3 to 5 allows intervention when intervention is most effective. Waiting until days 7 plus means you're trying to save birds that are often already beyond saving. Top fanciers catch problems at days 3 to 5. Average fanciers notice at days 7. That difference in observation timing is often the difference between birds that recover versus birds that die. Now let's discuss early warning sign 1, subtle changes in eye appearance and expression. The eyes are the single most revealing indicator of a bird's condition. Healthy birds have bright, clear eyes with distinct color, whether orange, pearl, or other color variant. The eyes have depth and intensity. They're alert and responsive, tracking movement, focusing on objects. The tissue around the eyes is smooth and clear. A bird in the early infection phase shows subtle changes in eye appearance that most fanciers miss. The eyes lose some of their brightness and depth. The color appears slightly duller. Instead of vibrant orange, maybe muted orange. Instead of clear pearl, maybe slightly cloudy pearl. The change is subtle enough that if you're not comparing directly to the bird's normal appearance, you might not notice. But if you handle the bird regularly and know what its eyes normally look like, you can detect the difference. The eye expression also changes subtly. Instead of alertly tracking movement and responding to stimulation, the eyes might be slightly less responsive. When you move your hand near the bird, healthy eyes follow the movement instantly. Early sick eyes might follow but with slight delay or less precision. This difference in responsiveness is tiny, but detectable with careful observation. The tissue around the eyes might show very slight puffiness or wetness. Not obvious discharge or swelling, that's late-stage symptom. Just subtle slight puffiness or a bit more moisture than normal. This indicates early inflammation or irritation from the developing infection. How to check eye appearance and expression. Handle each bird at least once or twice per week during racing season, more frequently during high-stress periods. When you handle bird, hold it at comfortable distance from your face, 30 centimeters in good light. Look directly at eyes. Assess color depth, brightness, clarity. Move your hand slowly near the bird's head and watch whether eyes track the movement precisely and immediately. Compare what you see to what you remember as that specific bird's normal eye appearance. Each bird is individual. Some naturally have brighter eyes than others. You're not comparing to an absolute standard. You're comparing to that individual bird's normal baseline. If you see that bird's eyes are duller than you remember, that's early warning sign. Also compare between birds. If one bird's eyes look noticeably duller than other birds' eyes, that bird might be showing early illness. Even if its eyes don't seem terrible in absolute terms. Eye assessment takes 10 seconds per bird. Handle 10 birds. You've spent less than 2 minutes. This tiny time investment provides critical early warning information. Don't skip it because you're busy. Don't skip it because birds seem fine from distance. Handle birds regularly and check eyes carefully every single time. Early warning sign 2. Feather position and quality, specifically minor feather fluffing or roughness that appears even when birds should be relaxed and comfortable. Healthy birds at rest in comfortable conditions have feathers tight to the body. The feathers lie smooth and flat. You can see clean body lines. This tight feather position indicates the bird is comfortable, properly thermoregulated, and not experiencing stress. A bird in early infection phase shows subtle feather position changes. The feathers aren't fully tight. There's very slight fluffing, especially around the neck and back. Not the heavy obvious fluffing of a severely sick bird where the bird looks like a round ball. Just slight roughness, where feathers aren't lying perfectly flat. The bird's outline is slightly less clean than it should be. This slight fluffing occurs because the bird is experiencing mild internal stress from the developing infection. The metabolic stress of immune response creates slight change in body temperature or comfort level. The bird fluffs slightly to regulate temperature or because it's not feeling perfect. Its automatic physiological response to internal state. The critical detail is this slight fluffing appears even when conditions should make the bird comfortable. Ambient temperature is appropriate. The bird is resting, not active. Other birds in the same environment have tight feathers, but this one bird shows slight fluffing. That's early warning. Additionally, feather quality might show subtle changes. Feathers might lose slight amount of their gloss. Instead of smooth, glossy appearance, slightly dull or rough appearance. Again, the change is subtle. You might not notice if you're not looking carefully or comparing to the bird's normal appearance. How to check feather position and quality. Observe birds at rest during periods when loft temperature is comfortable. Look at each bird from several angles. Are feathers tight and smooth across the entire body, or is there any area where feathers appear slightly lifted or rough? Pay particular attention to neck and back where fluffing often appears first. Also run your hand gently over the bird's back when you handle it. Healthy feathers feel smooth like silk. Slightly rough or lifted feathers feel different under your hand. This tactile assessment complements visual assessment. If you notice any bird showing slight feather fluffing at rest in comfortable conditions, note it. Check that bird again later the same day or the next day. If the fluffing persists across multiple observations in comfortable conditions, it's early warning sign, not just temporary reaction to being cold or recently active. Also observe how quickly birds tighten their feathers when stimulated. Healthy birds that are slightly fluffed while resting will immediately tighten feathers fully when you approach or when they become alert. A bird showing early illness might not tighten feathers completely, even when stimulated. The feathers tighten somewhat but not fully. This incomplete response to stimulation is early warning. Early warning sign 3. Changes in behavior and performance, specifically trap discipline and energy level. Healthy birds show consistent behavior patterns. They respond to feeding time with immediate interest and activity. They fly around the loft with good energy. They enter the trap quickly and decisively when returning from loft flying or training. These behaviors are baseline normal that you should know for each bird. A bird in early infection phase shows subtle behavior changes. The bird might approach feeding slightly less enthusiastically or start eating slightly later than usual. Not refusing feed, that's late symptom, just less eager than normal. When flying around loft, the bird might fly slightly shorter duration or return to perch sooner than usual. Not obviously weak or struggling, just marginally less energetic than baseline. Most importantly, trap discipline might decline subtly. A bird that normally enters trap within 3 to 5 seconds after landing might start taking 8 to 12 seconds. Not refusing to enter, not showing dramatic hesitation, just slightly slower than the bird's normal trap response time. This subtle slowing of trap response is remarkably sensitive, early indicator that something is affecting the bird's condition. The mechanism is that infection and immune response consume energy and create fatigue. Even in early phase before the bird is obviously sick, this internal stress reduces the bird's energy and responsiveness slightly. The bird is functioning but not at peak efficiency. Behaviors that require peak energy and focus, like rapid trap entry, show small degradations before obvious illness appears. How to check behavior and performance. Know each bird's normal behavior baseline through regular observation. Which birds are always first to feed? Which birds fly most actively during loft flying? Which birds trap fastest? This baseline knowledge allows you to detect when individual birds deviate from their normal patterns. During daily loft time, watch for birds that are showing less interest in feeding than usual for them. Watch for birds that are less active during loft flying than their normal behavior. During training tosses, record trap entry times and identify birds whose trap times are slower than their previous performance. Any bird showing behavior change that persists for 2 to 3 days, not just one isolated observation, is displaying early warning. The bird that's usually first to feed but has been third or fourth for 3 days running. The bird that usually flies 30 minutes but has been flying only 15 minutes for several days. The bird whose trap time increased from 5 seconds to 12 seconds on 2 consecutive tosses. These persistent deviations from baseline indicate something is affecting the bird's condition. Now let's discuss what to do when you detect early warning signs. This is critical because detecting problems early is only valuable if you intervene appropriately. The intervention at early stage is not aggressive medical treatment. It's supportive care that helps the bird's immune system fight off the infection before it becomes established. The immediate response protocol has 4 elements: hydration support, digestive support, stress reduction, and careful monitoring. Hydration support: when bird shows early warning signs, ensure it's drinking adequately and provide enhanced hydration. Add electrolyte supplementation to drinking water for 24 to 48 hours. The electrolyte formula discussed in previous videos: 1 liter water, 1.5 grams sea salt, small amount potassium chloride, if available, 1 tablespoon honey or glucose. This provides minerals and energy that support immune function and recovery. The enhanced hydration helps in several ways. Many infections cause mild dehydration that impairs immune response. Replacing fluids optimizes immune function. The electrolytes support cellular function throughout the body, including immune cells. The glucose provides quick energy that stressed birds need. Provide electrolyte water as the only drinking water for the affected bird for 24 hours. Then transition to plain water and monitor whether the bird improves. If symptoms persist or worsen, you might need veterinary consultation and medical treatment. But often, the early supportive intervention is sufficient to tip the balance in favor of recovery. Digestive support: add probiotic supplementation to support gut health and immune function. The gut contains a large portion of the immune system. Maintaining healthy gut bacteria supports overall immune response. Natural probiotic source is plain unsweetened yogurt. Provide 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon per bird mixed into soft feed or provided directly. Alternatively, use commercial Pigeon probiotic products following manufacturer instructions. The probiotics help maintain beneficial gut bacteria populations that support digestion and immune function. During stress and early infection, gut bacteria can be disrupted. Probiotic supplementation prevents this disruption. Provide probiotic supplementation for 3 to 5 days. When bird shows early warning signs, this gives sustained support during the critical period when immune system is fighting infection. Stress reduction: this is perhaps the most important element of the early response protocol. Stress suppresses immune function. Any stress during the early infection phase makes it harder for the bird's immune system to defeat the pathogen. You must minimize all stress sources. First, isolate the affected bird from racing, training, and breeding activities. Don't race a bird showing early warning signs even if a race is scheduled. Don't train it. Don't breed from it. These activities create stress that impairs immune response. The bird needs complete rest to focus all energy on fighting infection. Second, minimize handling of the affected bird. Don't catch it repeatedly to check condition. Observe from distance. Only handle when necessary for providing electrolyte water or probiotic supplementation. Each handling event is mild stress. Minimize frequency. Third, ensure loft environment is optimally calm and stable. No visitors, no loft cleaning or rearranging, no changes to feeding schedule or routine. Complete predictability and calm. Jos Thone's statement about preventing sickness in the silence reflects this principle. Silence, calm, stability. These environmental conditions allow birds to fight infection without additional stress. Fourth, provide comfortable loft condition, appropriate temperature, not too cold, not too hot, good ventilation without drafts, clean dry bedding, everything that supports comfort, reduces stress. Fifth, ensure affected bird has access to comfortable perching and isn't being bullied by loft mate. Sometimes sick birds become targets for aggression from healthy birds. If you observe this, temporarily separate the affected bird to individual cage or section where it can rest without social stress. Monitoring after implementing supportive care. Monitor the bird closely for the next 2 to 4 days. Check eyes daily. Check feather position daily. Check behavior and energy. You're looking for either improvement or deterioration. Improvement indicators. Eyes regaining brightness and depth. Feathers tightening and showing better gloss. Behavior returning to normal baseline. Increased energy and appetite. If you see these improvements, the supportive care worked. The immune system defeated the infection before it became established. Continue monitoring for several more days to ensure improvement is sustained. Then the bird can gradually return to normal activity. Deterioration indicators. Eyes becoming duller or showing discharge. Feathers fluffing more heavily. Behavior becoming more lethargic. Appetite decreasing. New symptoms appearing like nasal discharge, abnormal droppings, respiratory sound. If you see deterioration despite supportive care, the infection is progressing. You need veterinary consultation and likely medical treatment. The critical decision point is 2 to 3 days after starting supportive care. If bird is improving, continue supportive care and monitoring. If bird is the same or worse, seek veterinary care immediately. Don't wait longer, hoping improvement will happen. By day 3 to 4 of supportive care, you should see definite improvement or you need medical intervention. Now let's discuss prevention strategies that reduce the frequency of these early infections requiring intervention. Prevention is always better than treatment, even early treatment. The goal is loft management that minimizes exposure to pathogens and maximizes birds' immune function, so infections don't develop at all. Prevention element 1, hygiene and cleanliness. Many infections come from contaminated food, water, or loft environment. Maintaining cleanliness dramatically reduces pathogen exposure. Change water daily, minimum twice daily in hot weather or high-use periods. Dirty water is breeding ground for bacteria, fungi, and parasites. Clean water prevents these pathogens from entering bird systems through drink. Clean feeders regularly to remove old feed residue, droppings, and debris. Contaminated feeders can harbor pathogens that infect birds through feed consumption. Weekly cleaning minimum, more frequently if feeders show visible contamination. Maintain clean dry bedding on loft floor. Wet contaminated bedding is source of respiratory pathogens, aspergillus fungi, bacterial infections. Change bedding twice weekly minimum, as discussed in previous videos. More frequently if bedding becomes wet or heavily soiled. Ensure good ventilation without drafts. Stale air allows respiratory pathogens to accumulate. Good airflow removes these pathogens and reduces concentration, but avoid creating drafts that chill birds and stress immune system. Prevention element 2, nutrition and supplementation. Well-nourished birds with strong immune systems resist infections that would sicken poorly nourished birds. Provide appropriate seasonal feeding, as discussed in previous videos. Ensure adequate protein, vitamins, minerals for immune function. Consider strategic use of immune-supporting herbs discussed in previous video. Thyme, turmeric, clove. Used rotationally, provide compounds that support immune function and reduce infection risk. This isn't guaranteed prevention, but reduces vulnerability. During high-stress periods, racing season, breeding season, consider adding vitamin supplements that specifically support immune function. Vitamin A supports mucous membrane integrity, first-line defense against respiratory and digestive pathogens. Vitamin C and E support immune cell function. B-complex vitamins support overall metabolic function, including immunity. Don't oversupplement thinking more is better. Excessive vitamins, especially fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, K, can be toxic. Use moderate supplementation during high-demand periods, not megadoses year-round. Prevention element 3, stress management. Chronic stress suppresses immune function, making birds more vulnerable to infection. Minimize stress through calm, consistent loft environment, appropriate handling frequency, avoiding overcrowding, maintaining stable social groups. Don't over-race birds. Racing creates physiological stress that depletes immune reserves. Birds raced every week without adequate recovery become progressively more vulnerable to infection as season progresses. Allow recovery times in races. Monitor cumulative fatigue through the season. Don't disrupt loft environment unnecessarily. Constant changes, moving perches, changing nest boxes, introducing new birds frequently, create ongoing stress that wears down immune function. Maintain stability. Prevention element 4. Quarantine and disease control. New birds entering loft are potential source of pathogens. Quarantine new birds for minimum 3 weeks before introducing to main loft. During quarantine, observe for any signs of illness. If illness appears, treat the bird in quarantine and ensure full recovery before introduction. If illness does occur in main loft, isolate affected birds immediately to prevent spread to healthy birds. Many pigeon diseases are contagious. Allowing sick and healthy birds to interact freely spreads infection rapidly through the loft. After recovering from disease outbreak, thorough loft cleaning and disinfection breaks the infection cycle. Remove all bedding, clean all surfaces, allow thorough drying. This prevents reinfection from environmental pathogen reservoir. Now let's discuss the psychology of early detection and why fanciers resist implementing it, even when they know it's important. The resistance comes from several sources. First, time pressure. Careful observation of every bird multiple times per week takes time. Fanciers are busy. They convince themselves they don't have time for this level of attention. They observe casually during feeding and hope that's sufficient. It's not. Casual observation misses subtle early warning signs. Careful systematic observation is necessary, and it requires time investment. The response to this is recognizing that time invested in early detection saves far more time dealing with severe illness or deaths. 20 minutes per week, systematically observing and handling birds prevents days or weeks dealing with disease outbreaks. It's time investment with enormous return. Second, optimism bias. Fanciers see subtle changes, but tell themselves, it's probably nothing. The bird seems mostly fine. I'll watch it and see. This optimistic interpretation prevents early intervention. By the time the fancier admits there's definitely a problem, the window for early intervention has closed. The response is discipline protocol. If you detect early warning signs, implement supportive care protocol immediately without waiting to see if problems develop. The supportive care is low risk and low cost. Even if the bird wasn't actually becoming sick, the electrolytes and probiotics and rest won't harm it. But if the bird was becoming sick, the early intervention might save. Implement supportive care at first sign rather than waiting for confirmation. Third, denial and fear. Some fanciers resist careful observation because they're afraid of what they might find. They don't want to know if birds are sick because then they'd have to deal with it. This denial leads to avoiding close observation. I won't look too carefully because then I won't see problems and won't have to worry. This is obviously self-defeating. Problems don't disappear because you ignore them. They worsen. The response is accepting that bird illness happens in every loft, regardless of management quality. Catching problems early makes them manageable. Ignoring problems until they're severe makes them often fatal. Face the reality that observation might reveal problems and accept that early detection gives you the best chance to solve those problems. Now let's discuss measuring the effectiveness of early detection implementation. If you begin systematically checking for early warning signs and intervening with supportive care, you should see measurable improvements in loft health over weeks and months. The primary indicator is reduction in severe illness and death. If you're currently losing several birds per year to sudden illness that seem to appear out of nowhere, implementing early detection should reduce this dramatically. You'll still occasionally have birds show early warning signs, but you'll catch and support them before they become severely ill. Deaths from preventable diseases should decrease substantially. Secondary indicator is improved recovery rates. When birds do become ill despite prevention efforts, those caught early through warning signs should recover much more reliably than birds that weren't noticed until severe symptoms appeared. Track recovery rates. If they improve after implementing early detection, the system is working. Third indicator is reduced need for medical interventions. If early supportive care allows birds' immune systems to defeat infections before medical treatment is needed, you'll use fewer antibiotics and medications. This is both healthier for birds and more economical. Fourth indicator is maintained condition through racing season. Birds that are monitored closely and supported at first signs of problems maintain better condition through demanding racing season than birds that develop subclinical infections that go undetected and drain their systems, even though they don't cause obvious illness. Track these indicators through a racing season. Compare to previous seasons before implementing systematic early detection The improvements should be noticeable and should justify the time investment in regular careful observation. Now let's discuss the championship perspective. Top fanciers universally practice detailed regular observation. They know their birds individually. They notice immediately when any bird shows subtle deviation from its normal appearance or behavior. This intimate knowledge allows detection at the earliest possible stage. Jos Thone's approach of preventing sickness in the silence reflects philosophy that constant, careful, quiet observation allows problems to be detected and addressed before they become serious. He didn't wait for birds to be obviously sick. He watched constantly for subtle signs that something was beginning to go wrong. Louis van der Velde similarly handled and observed his birds with extreme regularity. He knew each bird's eye color depth, feather quality, normal behavior pattern. Any deviation triggered immediate supportive intervention. His low loss rate and high health standards came partly from excellent general management, but also from this constant vigilant observation. These championship approaches created lofts where severe illness was rare because problems were caught and addressed while still minor. The fanciers invested time in observation that less successful fanciers didn't invest. That time investment paid enormous returns in bird health and performance. You can implement the same approach. You can commit to handling and observing each bird at least twice per week, more during high-stress periods. You can learn each bird's normal baseline and watch for deviations. You can implement supportive care immediately when early warning signs appear. You can prevent the progression from early infection to severe illness through early intervention. The 3 early warning signs are clear: subtle changes in eye brightness and responsiveness, minor feather fluffing or roughness, even in comfortable conditions, small decreases in energy, appetite, or trap discipline that persist for 2 to 3 days. When you see any of these signs, implement the 4-element response protocol: enhanced hydration with electrolytes, digestive support with probiotic, complete stress reduction through rest and calm environment, careful monitoring for improvement or deterioration. This systematic approach to early detection and intervention prevents most cases of severe illness and death from common pigeon diseases. It saves birds that would otherwise be lost. It maintains loft health at higher level than reactive management that only addresses obvious problems. The silent killer is not any specific disease. The silent killer is the failure to detect disease early when intervention is most effective. Break the silence through constant, careful observation. Detect problems at earliest stage. Intervene immediately with supportive care, and watch your loft health transform from reactive crisis management to proactive prevention and early intervention. Your birds are telling you when problems are beginning. The early warning signs are there in eyes, feathers, behavior. The question is whether you're looking carefully enough to see them, and whether you're willing to act immediately when you do see them. Top fanciers look constantly and act immediately. That's why their birds rarely die from preventable diseases. That's why their loft health is exceptional. That's what you should do too. Watch carefully, see early, act immediately, support naturally, and prevent the silent killer from taking birds that could have been saved through early detection and proper intervention. The difference between life and death is often just seeing the subtle signs a few days earlier and responding with hydration, probiotics, rest and calm. See this, know what they mean, act on them immediately. That's how you beat the silent killer. That's how you keep birds alive and healthy through the challenges of racing season and beyond. Watch, see, act. 3 simple steps that save lives.